Okay, hi everyone. Welcome back into the Zooming into Success series, part of our Bonney Lake Chamber Collective. I'm Dr. Danielle Lord. I'm the hostess of our Zooming into Success series, and I'm joined today with Charity from our Chamber Collective. I knew that was going to happen. And we have a special guest, Diane Chang, and she is with Diane Chang Coaching, and she's going to walk us through a really timely topic right now, and that is how to grow 3 core mental muscles to thrive in challenging times. And I do a lot of work myself in this area around trauma, and I know how important this is. So very eager to have you on the show today, and we're going to have to connect at some point afterwards and continue the conversation, I hope. So I know anyone with us today and anyone listening in the future will really appreciate this conversation. It's very timely, very needed. With that, I'm going to mute so I can cough, and Diane, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to do this topic today. It's a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And as you said, especially now in these times. And so really appreciate being here today. So to start off with, I'd first like to just briefly introduce myself. My name's Diane Chang. I am a third generation Chinese South African, hence the accent. I started my career there as a software developer, working for a software development company. I worked there for over 6 years, and over 30 years ago, we immigrated first to Canada and then the US. Worked for the same company in tech for another 6 years before I moved into the financial industry. I worked as a software delivery manager in finance in both California and New York. And then about 10 years ago, I decided that I wanted to become a coach. And so I got my coaching certification. I started doing this part-time, and I'm now doing this full-time. I love what I do. It's probably something that I'll never retire from. I'll just slow down. And in addition to doing one-on-one coaching and team coaching, I also do some group coaching as well. So that's just a little bit about me. So what brought you here today? I don't know if you usually do introductions in this. You can feel free to just type it in the chat if you want. I'm just curious as to, what is it that piqued your interest about this topic today? What had you sign up for attending and giving up your lunch hour to listen to this? So yeah, so feel free to pop into the chat if you like. Okay. What I'd like to share is what brought me here today and why it's so important in terms of this topic of mental fitness. So my purpose isn't to coach. Right? My purpose is to really help others to be happier personally and professionally. And I do that by helping individuals and organizations to make meaningful changes towards becoming the best versions of themselves based on what they value. And so as part of my coaching journey, in addition to doing basic coaching certifications and learning about leadership and executive coaching, I've added to my toolkit mental fitness coaching. So as you can see here, mental fitness coaching is a huge part of what I do, and that is also what's the focus of today's topic as well. So just a little bit about me and why I'm here and why I do what I do. Yeah, so as we go through the webinar, as people share, I'd ask you to please respect the confidentiality of what others may be sharing. Sometimes people share some very personal stories about their journey, so really want to make sure we respect that. And then consider removing any distractions if you can. You can leave your camera on, and please feel free to anytime just pop something in the chat. If you have a question, just let me know, or just speak up, take yourself off mute. Really want to make this as interactive as you'd like it to be. I'm happy to answer any questions on the way as well. Okay, yeah. And I see some information in the chat, just learning about our saboteurs and how they interplay with each other, and just learning more about mental fitness. Yeah, so I hope that you'll be able to get what you came to this session for today. So we're going to cover 3 topics. We're going to talk about what is mental fitness, what are the 3 core muscles to understand and to develop your mental fitness, and then how to get and stay mentally fit. And then to close off, we'll just have a few giveaways. So firstly, before we get started, I'd like you to just consider what challenge you have right now that's currently bothering you. Just note it down on a piece of paper, or just keep it into mind, or even put it into the chat if you want. What is a challenge that's currently bothering you? And just hold that in your head or on a piece of paper for now. So let's first start off with what is the definition of mental fitness? Quite simply, it's your capacity to respond to life's challenges with positive rather than a negative mindset. And it does have an impact on our performance, our wellness, and our relationships. So it's a very simple definition, coming from a positive rather than a negative mindset. And the whole concept of mental fitness and the topic that we're going to cover today is really based on deep research. This has been used with hundreds of CEOs and their executive teams. It has been used with Stanford students, and it actually has also been used with world-class athletes. Because as you know, if you think about tennis players, golfers, right, what distinguishes them is their ability to stay calm in the face of that last bad shot, that last ball that went into the net, right? So it really is about how do they stay mentally fit in a game that might not be going their way. There's also a book based on this concept called Positive Intelligence as well. And as I mentioned earlier, this is all based on neuroscience. So positive intelligence is part of a mental fitness program that is based on cognitive behavioral psychology, positive psychology, performance science, and neuroscience. A lot of the work that I do is based on science. I feel it's really important to have proof that these things do actually work if we're going to spend our time and our resources working on these types of things. And just briefly to introduce the creator of this concept is a gentleman by the name of Shirzad Chamine, and he actually has done some lectures at Stanford, and his background also happens to be in tech. So what he's done is he's actually made this really, really simple to understand, as you'll see in the next few slides. So this is all based on the power of factor analysis. And factor analysis tries to simplify things to their root cause. So as we all know, all the colors in the world are basically made up of 3 core colors: red, blue, and yellow. So in the same way that the colors can be simplified into their 3 core colors, positive intelligence and mental fitness can also be boiled down to 3 core muscles of mental fitness. And those 3 muscles are our saboteur interceptors, our sage, and our self-command. It's very easy to remember because they're 3 S's. So always remember the 3 S's: your saboteur interceptor, your sage, and your self-command. And we'll go through each of these in detail. Any questions so far? Any comments? Good? Okay, great.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So just to explain what each of them is at a high level, we have saboteurs, and we'll talk about our saboteurs in a few minutes. The saboteurs are things that generate all of our negative emotions, including stress, anxiety, self-doubt, anger, avoidance, procrastination, and discontent. So just remember, for us to not be in saboteur mode, we have to use our saboteur interceptor muscle. Our sage muscle is what helps us to handle life's challenges with more clarity rather than coming from a place of fear. It comes from a place of confidence and positive emotions. And our self-command is what helps us to more consistently intercept our saboteurs and come from our sage mindset. So, on that note, we all have up to 10 saboteurs at different strengths, and we have up to 5 sage powers. And some of you may have taken the assessment before today, and you may know what your saboteurs are. If not, you can take the saboteur assessment after today's session. It's free, it's very quick to do, and you'll get a better sense of what they are. So we all have to have up to 10 saboteurs at different strengths, and the one that we all have in common happens to be the judge. Right? And the judge has us judge ourselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. It has this fear judgment from others. Or what if I say something and I look and sound stupid? It has us judge other people, and it has us judge circumstances and situations. So the judge is very powerful. We all have this. If you do the saboteur assessment and you get your results back, you actually won't see the judge on there just because we all have it. You'll see the other 9 saboteurs at different strengths as well.
That's funny. I had to go look.
Okay, good. So Pam, yeah, you didn't recognize it because it's just ever present, and we just have to manage it and manage it away. And for some of us, it can be very powerful at times as well. Okay. Now, there's a difference between the judge and blameless discernment. And I want to give you an example. So 2 people won the lottery. Person A decides to buy themselves the fancy sports car that they've always wanted. Person B has decided to buy to drive the same car that they've driven for the past 15 years. Judge: oh my gosh, look at person A. They got all this money, now they're suddenly showing off buying these fancy cars. What's next? Or, oh my gosh, look at person B. They've got all this money, yet they're driving an old rinky-dink car, or they've gone and bought a used car. Right? What are they going to do with their money? What misers? So what just happened there? In this example, I judged that person based on what? Based on my own value system around money, around cars, and how I feel about that person. 2 people can do the exact same thing, and yet somehow when person A does it versus person B, it rubs me up the wrong way, just because of history or bias or something that I have in my mind. So just remember, there's a difference between the judge and blameless discernment. Blameless discernment looks like this. Person A and person B have won the lottery. Person A has decided to buy the car that they've always wanted. Person B has decided to do something else with their money. That's it. Just the facts, right? No assumptions, no data, no value judgment on them based on our own value system. And it's so hard to do sometimes. I am coaching someone who, when I first engaged with him, he really, really wanted to buy himself a Porsche. He's in his 50s, he'd worked really, really hard. And he's like, you know what, this is my dream car. I absolutely wanted to buy it. And I'm afraid to buy it because I know my mom, who's very frugal, she's going to look at me strange for buying this car. And quite frankly, and these are his words, not mine, I'm afraid that when people see me in my car, they're going to think that I'm a douchebag. That's what he said, right? It's like, absolutely. And so the fear just crippled him from doing what he really wanted, the dream that he'd had, because of that fear of judgment. Any questions or comments? Okay. All right. And so the judge is a big source of our shame and our guilt and our lack of confidence. We're afraid, puts us into fear. Now, there's a difference between shame and guilt. What I'm learning is that shame is feeling bad about who we are, and guilt is feeling bad about something that we've done. So with shame, we want to learn to love ourselves unconditionally, right? Love ourselves for the flawed human beings that we are. Life is messy, we are messy, things don't go as well as we'd like them to. We're not the things that happen to us. We just have to learn how to love ourselves unconditionally. It sounds strange. Having said that, self-compassion is way, way more powerful than self-confidence. Self-compassion is way more powerful than self-confidence. When we can be kind to ourselves in the same way that we're kind to a good friend, right? We treat our friends better. When they're facing difficult situations, we have a way of being compassionate with them. We have a way of uplifting them. Yet when something happens to us, we tend to beat ourselves up about that thing. Guilt is feeling bad about something that we've done. So with guilt, we can think about it in a few ways. Number one, we can just stop doing the thing that's having us feel guilty. It means you have a conscience, and we were like, oh, you know what, this thing is probably something that I don't really want to be doing. Right? We can apologize to ourselves or to the other person for what we've done. And we can also process where that guilt is coming from. And usually, guilt comes when 2 values that we hold dear are fighting against each other. So a classic example is I place a high value on doing a good job at work and being a good team player, and I place a high value of spending time with my family and friends. And when I spend time at work, I feel guilty. And when I'm spending time with family and friends, I'm feeling guilty because I should be doing that email. I should be responding to that. I should be looking at my phone, right? And so what's happened is we've already made the choice to do the one or the other. So when I'm at work, I chose to do that right now. And then what do? I stick a stone in my shoe, I stick my finger in the ribs, and I make it as uncomfortable as possible while I'm doing that thing because that guilt is pestering me. So what we want to recognize is to say that guilt is there. Let me just take that stone out of my shoe. Let me take my finger out of my ribs, and let me just focus on the thing that I chose to do already. It's not serving me well. It's going to take me double amount of time of just doing something that I hate doing with negative emotion, or that I don't want to be doing, with negative emotion. It doesn't allow me to focus and be here now and do it effectively and efficiently. And then what we can do is we can say, when I take a step back, am I finding that I'm more consistently choosing the one over the other? And maybe for today, this week, this month, this year, this might make more sense that I'm choosing this. It is a higher priority in my value system right now. It has to be for all the different reasons. And so with that in mind, we can then manage and set our own expectations around the reason why we made that choice. And we can manage and set expectations of those that we feel that we might be doing a disservice to by choosing the one over the other. That's one way to help us to alleviate that feeling of guilt, is to rationalize why and to explain and manage and set those expectations. And then also, the judge is a huge source of our lack of confidence. We become non-assertive or complacent for fear. And I have a whole other talk on the art of confidence and the art of building confidence as well, because it's so fundamental to how we all show up in different situations when we're showing up with a lot of confidence. Any questions so far about the judge?
Yeah, but just to clarify, everyone has this quality about them, basically.
Yep. You can call it a quality charity. I don't know that I'd call it a quality.
Okay.
We all have this saboteur. It's a quality. Yeah, it's a
Saboteur
that we all have.
attribute.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm just teasing. Yeah, it tells us actually. I'm glad you said the word quality, because the judge will tell us, I'm good for you. So if I weren't here, you wouldn't be trying as hard, right? And it just constantly lies to us about the fact that we need it when we don't need it at all.
Interesting.
Yeah. All right. So as I mentioned earlier, we have up to 9 accomplice saboteurs at different strengths. And they're often overused strengths of ours. They're coping mechanisms, and they're probably default negative behaviors that we have that were developed in childhood. So the source of our saboteurs are either innate or learned behaviors from childhood. So as an example, my highest saboteur happens to be restless. The innate strength underneath that I've passed on to both my son and my daughter, absolutely, is the ability to take on a lot of different tasks, see connections across things, be able to be very productive and do multiple things, not multitasking, just have multiple different interests at the same time. Having said that, when overused, we have monkey brain. Just too many things going on at the same time. So that restless attribute, the underlying strength, is definitely something that I know that is genetic with me and my children as well. And you can see, children in the same family, you can see that they're wired differently as well. So the wiring matters as well in terms of how our saboteurs will abuse those strengths, whereas our sage will use our strengths. There are also learned behaviors. So for example, hypervigilant. I have a relative who is very high hypervigilant, and I know that growing up, she heard people say, be careful, the dog's going to bite you. Be careful, the traffic. Be careful, be careful, be careful. So growing up believing life is very, very dangerous, and when having their own children, was overly protective over them because of the fear of the dangers in life. So these are behaviors where maybe they served us well in childhood, and as we grew up into adulthood, we had that cast on our arm when our arm was broken, right? And as adult, we're still wearing that cast where we no longer need it. So it's actually holding us back from being at our best. Any questions so far about the saboteurs. Okay. And when you do your assessment, you'll see on a scale of 0 to 10, what are your higher saboteurs as well? Which saboteurs have the highest scores? Mine happen to be restless, pleaser, and stickler. My husband's happen to be stickler. So, and stickler shows up differently. It doesn't show up for me at home. It shows up at work for me, in my work environment.
Huh.
Okay. So as I mentioned, with my restless, right, instead of focusing on one or two things and making progress on them, I have got 50 different tabs open. I'm trying to do too many things. I've got 6 projects happening. And the restless is telling it, the promise is like, oh, you'll get a lot more done. In fact, I'm getting less done, right? Because I'm doing too much and not focusing on it.
Mhm.
So I just wanted to show an example. For those of you who haven't seen the saboteur results, you'll see that it lists each saboteur and it shows you on a score of 1 to 10. In this particular one, it doesn't actually list the numbers, how strong each of your saboteurs is. Okay, and there's actually an online report that you can, it'll tell you a little bit more information about each of the saboteurs, what their behaviors are, where they come from, and what lies they're telling us, because they'll tell us that they're good for us as well. So here's an example: stickler, which I'm familiar with. Right? So perfectionism and a need for order and organization taken too far. So there's good characteristics about them. We want quality in certain situations. Again, when overused, they are holding us back. There's a cost to our stickler saboteur. There's a cost in our relationships, right? Wanting everything perfect when maybe our partner doesn't care that much about that particular thing as well. So each of our saboteurs is costing us something. Okay, so the question is, are negative emotions good for you? Right? Because we all have them. They'll never go away. Are they good for us? Well, is pain good for you? And the answer to that question is, for a split second, to know that your hand is over the hot stove. It's a signal, it's a cue, right? It's a cue for me to just do something. I need to run away from danger, right? Having said that, what some of us do is we keep our hand on the hot stove for far too long. We stay in saboteur mode. We stay in fear of judgment. We stay in stickler mode. All of those, the guilt. We feel guilty. We can't sleep at night because, oh, I said that thing in the meeting and I shouldn't have said that thing. And what are people thinking about me? So it's only good for us as a signal of what's going on. So, in summary, as you can see, staying in negative emotion hurts our ability to see clearly and respond with empathy, curiosity, and creativity. Why? Because we're generating cortisol in our brain. And that cortisol clouds our brain. Right? It's all based on neurochemistry. That's why sometimes, like, let me take a deep breath, let me go for a walk, let me clear my mind, because right now I'm in saboteur mode.
Mhm.
Okay, so here's the thing. We're not saying we want to ignore or not feel our negative emotions. Yes, we'll get angry. Yes, we'll be sad. Yes, we'll be frustrated. What we want to do is we want to try to shift away from them as quickly as possible so we can have the emotional agility to understand, where's my anger coming from? Where's my frustration coming from? So that I can process it coming with clarity. And it's like, oh, I'm angry because my value on this just got violated. Oh, I'm angry because I said something and I felt judged by that. Right? If I stay within anger, I'm not allowing myself to really think about it, and it's just spiraling down even further. Okay? So really important, we don't want to ignore them or poo-poo them. They're real. You just want to process them, coming from a sage place. So let's focus on the sage. So the sage lives in the region of our brain associated with positive emotions. It actually happens to come from our prefrontal cortex and our executive brain. It has us think about things with peace and calm, clear laser-headed focus. We can see the big picture. we can see perspective. So the sage has us operate from a sage perspective, and I'll share a little bit later what it means to have that sage perspective. And if the saboteurs always come from a place of fear, the sage is always coming from a place of love, kindness, compassion, love. Love for ourselves, love for our fellow human beings. Just to summarize, in terms of the brain impacts, the saboteurs are from the brain stem, our limbic system, and generally engage the left parts of our brain, whereas the sage is in our middle prefrontal cortex. It's our empathy circuitry and generally activates the right part of our brain. There's a lot of nuances to this, obviously, and I'm not a neuroscientist, just generally this is how it plays out. So as you can see, the saboteur motivates us through negative emotions: fear, stress, anger, guilt, shame, insecurity. You should be doing this. Why aren't you? Right? Obligation, pressure to do certain things. Whereas the sage motivates us through positive emotions: empathy for ourselves and others, curiosity, I wonder what's going on here, right? Creativity, coming up with solutions, passion, and purpose. So our saboteurs might generate success, they don't necessarily generate happiness. So my controller saboteur, I can like make things happen and make people do things to my will, right? At the end of the day, it'll have short-term benefit. I won't get any loyalty or agency from the people that I'm demanding things from with my controller saboteur. Whereas the sage can generate a higher success and sustained happiness. So happiness is the absence of negative emotion, which implies that the only people that are responsible for our happiness is ourselves. We are responsible for our own happiness. No one else can make us happy because it's our ability to shift from negative to positive emotions. So there's a sage perspective, and the sage perspective says that every outcome or circumstance can be turned into a gift or opportunity. I'll use a simple example. You're sitting in traffic, right? And a trip that was meant to take you 15 minutes is now going to take you an hour, hour and a half. If you're in saboteur mode, you're going to start judging yourself or feeling at the victim of circumstances. This always happens to me. Why me? Or why didn't I get up earlier? Why didn't I check the traffic? Why are they doing roadworks right now? Why did that person cut me off? Just blaming everyone, or maybe even getting into road rage because we're so upset by the traffic. So that would definitely be our saboteur emotions coming through. Or if you want to come from sage, we just have to accept that there's traffic. There's nothing I can do about it. In fact, I am the traffic. I'm part of the traffic, right? And the gift and opportunity, what is the gift and opportunity in this? I get to listen to my favorite podcast. I get to unwind. I get to make that phone call that I haven't been making. I find the opportunity in that. Now imagine that you're sitting in the traffic for an hour and your brain was awash with cortisol that whole time. When you arrive at your final destination, the first person that you encounter, they're not going to encounter the better version of you, right? And the first thing that you try to do, you're not going to do it with clarity. Whereas, if for that hour, your brain was awash with oxytocin, right? Acceptance, just, it doesn't mean that you like being in the traffic. It just means it just is, right? I just accept that this is. You have no negative emotion. You will approach the day much differently when you arrive at your destination. The first person you meet is not going to see the angry version of you. It makes such a big difference. And it has a ripple effect throughout the rest of our day. It's depleting our mental fitness battery. If we started off the day strong, with a strong mental fitness battery, and we let these things get to us, we will be depleting our battery versus energizing our battery with mental fitness. And when we get to the self-command aspect of it, I'll show you how we can build up our battery and how our battery gets depleted. Okay. So I want to share the stallion story that talks about the sage perspective. And so the story is this, that an old farmer lives on a farm with his teenage son, and he's got this beautiful stallion that he lovingly cares for. So one day, he takes his stallion to this competition, and the stallion wins first prize at the annual county fair. So he comes back, and his neighbors gather around him and congratulate him. And oh, this is so great. And all the farmer says is, who knows what is good and bad? The neighbors kind of puzzled by the reaction. And they just, okay, fine. A few weeks later, some thieves who've heard about this prize stallion come and steal the horse, right? So the neighbors come by and they commiserate with them. Oh my gosh, this is terrible. Your horse got stolen. And the farmer says, who knows what is good and what is bad, right? Several days later, the stallion escapes from the people that stole him and comes back with a bunch of wild mares. Brings along some wild mares with him. Neighbors come back, oh my gosh, this is great, you've got all these wild mares. And the farmer says, who knows what is good and what is bad? A few weeks later, the farmer's son is riding the horse, gets thrown off the horse and fractures his leg. Again, the neighbors come by and commiserate with the farmer, and the farmer says the same thing that they're getting used to now. Who knows what is good and what is bad? The following week, the Imperial Army marches into town to conscript all the young men to be soldiers, and now that the son's leg is broken, cannot be conscripted to the army, right? And of course, the neighbors already know what the farmer's going to say. Who knows what is good and bad? They don't even bother to ask anymore. So this is a reminder that at the end of the day, yes, circumstances may seem good or bad. We want to ask ourselves, whatever the circumstance is, even if this isn't going in the way that I want it to, how can I find the gift and opportunity in this? And sometimes we can find it immediately. Oh, I'm stuck in traffic, right? I'm going to be able to listen to my favorite podcast. And sometimes it takes us a day, weeks, years later to reflect on that thing and say, you know what? This is the gift and opportunity that came out of this. Next slide.
Yeah.
Someone had a question? Good. Okay. So which perspective is true? This is bad or this is a gift? And the answer, whichever you believe, becomes true. Depending on what our mindset is around the thing, we are going to make things feel worse than they are, or we can figure out how to make lemonade out of lemons. Okay. So, the 5 sage powers that we have. The first one is empathize. So feeling deep acceptance and compassion for the other person. And this is really hard sometimes, especially when the other person has a totally different value system to what we have. And in the same way that people probably can't change our value system, we probably can't change their value system. We also have to recognize that what we see of everybody is just the tip of the iceberg. There's just so much underneath that we just don't know about other people's journeys and how they're showing up right now. And the other thing to recognize is whether we care to admit it or not, the minute you have a brain, you have a bias. Why? Because our brains are trained to make connections and associations. That's how we learn. And that's how we develop our biases, conscious and unconscious. The good news is we can also unlearn those biases as well. So the first sage power is empathy. The second one is explore. Just get curious, ask questions about the situation. The third one is innovate, coming up with ideas, thinking out of the box. The fourth one is navigate, is picking a direction based on something that you value. And the fifth one is activate, taking clear, laser-focused action, moving into action. And each of you is engaging your sage powers all day, every day, when you're not coming from fear. The fact that you activated to join this webinar today, right? The fact that you explored it, and decided to take action. You did it coming from a place of sage, hopefully, rather than someone forcing you to come to the session today as well. So just remember, when you are engaging your sage powers, you are tapping into your potential. Your saboteurs are getting in the way of that potential. So, before we get into how to get and stay mentally fit, any questions about the sage or saboteur? Good?
I have a little bit of a question
Sure.
about the sage powers and the saboteur profiles. It seems like the saboteur profiles are really sort of well defined. I don't know, I guess it feels like a lot of them go back to, a lot of times to sort of your history, your foundational background, childhood, those kinds of deep learning sort of things. And the sage feels more, it's more like a toolkit. Is it, would you say, is it a toolkit for learning to how to deal with these negative emotions rather than a profile or something that you can overlay in the same way that the saboteur is defined? I just want to understand that a little bit more.
Toolkit is a good way to think about it. In the way that he expresses it, it's a power that we have. And so we can learn how to empathize better. Right?
Okay.
And the way that one person empathizes versus another over time can be different in terms of how you do that. Exploring, we can learn to add to our toolkit how to ask questions in a way that helps us to explore more effectively. Right?
Okay.
We can innovate more effectively. So yes, they're the foundations of tools that we use, and each of us is going to bring a different set of tools based on our own needs and our own background. You know, you might need a paintbrush and I might need a hammer sometimes. So at its core, though, the one thing that I think is consistent actually is empathy. You know, just learning how to be kind to ourselves and other people, how to understand, coming from a place of gratitude. Each of our actions, each of our navigation is going to be very different. If I value, freedom of working from home, we were talking about this earlier before the call, then I'm going to probably value and navigate and choose jobs that allow me to work from home. Right. So I'm going to navigate based on what I value. Does that help?
Yeah, that's helpful. Thank you.
All right. So how do we get and stay mentally fit? Well, if you can think about our saboteurs being our stressed self and our sage being our best self, we want to learn how to shift from our stressed to our best self. And that shift comes from having good self-command, the third S. So if you can think about your saboteurs as being 300-pound weights in the gym, we cannot just go to the gym, boom, and go and lift those weights anytime we want. We got to go to the gym every single day and do our reps. We got to do our weights every day to keep on building those muscles and keep them strong, so at the time that we need to, we can engage with that weight and lift it. Well, the same thing is true of our mental fitness. If we want to be able to tackle our saboteurs more consistently, and how do you do that? You do it through something called a PQ rep. So instead of a rep like doing your abs or your sit-ups or your crunches, you want to do something called a PQ rep. And each PQ rep is as little as 10 seconds or 3 deep breaths. I can be frazzled, and if I can say to myself, stop, just take 3 deep breaths, right? That is absolutely going to help calm my brain. Maybe I need 6 breaths. Maybe I need more, depending on the strength of that thing that's triggered me or my current mental fitness in the moment. Having said that, the more PQ reps we do, the stronger our mental fitness will be. And that's why what we want to do is we actually want to do at least 15 minutes of mental fitness exercises every day. And if you do this consistently for 15 minutes a day, every day for 8 weeks, if you go under a functional MRI, you will see yourself build new neural pathways towards different behaviors versus our autopilot behaviors, we will go towards we will go towards new behaviors. This is all based on behavioral neuroscience. There's a white paper on the neuroscience behind positive intelligence as well. So for me, for example, the way that I do my PQ rep exercises, and I've been doing this since 2019 now, I do them in the morning. There's different types. There's breath, there's meditation, which is the obvious one, right? Meditate and just breathe. There's other ones that are tactile. So every morning and every evening, I use an electric toothbrush, and I tell myself nothing is more important right now than for me to focus on every single tooth, the taste, the texture. Before, I don't even have any idea if I was brushing every single tooth the same amount of time, right? It's like, oh, now I know that every single tooth is getting equal love, and I'm getting my mental fitness exercises in at the same time. I built it into my other morning routines. My first sip of coffee in the morning, I taste it, the texture, the temperature, every mouthful, right? I just do a PQ rep on that. When I'm walking down the stairs, when I'm listening to music, I listen to one instrument intensely for 10 seconds, maybe the whole song. This is just all designed to train our minds to be here now. Why? Because when we can train our minds to be here now, our minds are going to be more aware of what frame of mind we're in. Am I in saboteur mode? Did my saboteur get triggered? Right? Can I shift to sage? So all of these things are why we want to build our mental fitness. So is it really possible to shift from saboteur to sage response even in tough challenges? And the answer is yes. The speed and depth of the shift depends on the mental muscle strength. And of course, the size of the thing that triggered us in the first place as well. Okay. So lasting positive change requires 80% mental muscle and 20% insight. What does that mean? You can learn all of these concepts as part of this webinar. You can read about them. You can learn about this all day, every day. Unless you're practicing the concept of mental fitness and building your self-command, you'll still go into saboteur mode more often than you'd like to. Right? So you actually have to do this. We all understand the benefits of exercise, yet we don't always do it. And this is something that if we do, it's proven to work for us. So this is all based on neuroplasticity of our neural pathways. The more we use it, the more developed it becomes. It's like when you go hiking. If you've gone hiking on the same path over and over again, default behaviors, it's so much easier to go up that path. It's like, oh, today I'm going to try a new way up this mountain. And it's a path that's hardly been trodden. It's very new. It's got grass. It's just harder, right? It's not as well defined. The more that I take the path, the more natural it's going to be to come from that, to take that path rather than the other one. So in summary, in terms of the simplicity of the operating system, if you're feeling negative emotions, it sounds simple. Stop. Right? I don't know if any of you have seen that old Bob Newhart sharing what her problems are, and he just says, stop, stop, stop. That's his response to everything, right? And it's as simple as that, and it's not as easy to do. So stop, you're in saboteur mode. Do some PQ reps to quiet your saboteurs and activate your sage. Assume the sage perspective that, hey, when this, I'm going to find the gift and opportunity in this. And generate the gift by using your sage powers. So keep on using your sage powers. At this point in time, what can I do? Can I be kind to myself? Should I be asking questions? What are some ideas that are coming up? What should I be doing? What decision should I be making now? How can I act? So again, the operating system is very simple. This is why I love this concept as well. Okay. So I want you to remember that at the beginning of the session, I asked you to please think about a challenge that's currently bothering you. It's causing you some grief, some frustration, something. And now I want you to think about that same thing. And I want you to ask yourself, how might I approach this coming from my sage mindset? So the first thing ask yourself is there a gift and opportunity in this challenge that I'm facing? If I were to show kindness to myself and others in the situation, if there are others involved, what might that look like? What are some questions I can ask about this? What assumptions might I be making? What are some creative solutions, innovate, that might help me to solve this particular challenge? Based on that, what might I choose? And what might my action be? Coming from a place of sage. Why? Because if I'm trying to solve the problem, coming from saboteur, I may not make the better decision in that moment. I may not make the better choices because I'm making those choices coming from fear rather than clarity. Questions or comments? Okay.
It seems so important. Sorry, it just seems so important to sit for a minute with these thoughts. And I guess that's part of these PQ exercises that you're talking about that help you. Because I think sometimes people can be reactionary when they're faced with something that's uncomfortable or challenging, right?
Yeah, we all are.
So does exercising I'm assuming, based on what you're saying, this 15-minute repetitive, bringing this into your lifestyle, it becomes the fallback that helps you. This is the toolkit that helps you be more reflective in that moment.
Exactly.
Okay.
And if our self-command is strong, we won't even get triggered in the first place. If you look at me funny, Charity, I'm not going to think, oh my gosh, right? I just want to, I'm just like, oh, we have trust. We have high trust in each other. It's okay. It doesn't matter. You know, let me get curious. Why did you look at me strange? Right? Did I say something that didn't quite resonate with you? I'd be more free to ask and get curious about what had you, maybe you just had something in your eye at the moment. All right, and so just to share with you, there is actually a program called Positive Intelligence. It lasts for 6 weeks. It's actually an app where you can watch a weekly video. It drops every Friday. You can do 15 minutes of practice in the app. It actually also, if you use the app, it comes with 8 chapters of the book called Positive Intelligence. You can actually buy the book called Positive Intelligence, and it's an opportunity to continue to do your daily practice at your own pace. So it's a way to build the habits of mental fitness around this. I just wanted to show you a screenshot of what the app might look like. It's got focus for every day. It's got learning modules. It's got community that you can engage with, and it's got your own profile. So you can see what your saboteurs are, and you can dig a little bit deeper into them and learn more about them. If you're interested, please shoot me an email if you want to learn more. Happy to give you some overview about what this is about. I run cohorts with 5 people at a time because I like to have pods where 5 people, no more than 5 people, can talk about this and share their experiences confidentially. And so every Monday night after the video drops on a Friday, on a Monday evening or Tuesday evening or morning, Monday or Tuesday, sometime during the day, we'll debrief as a cohort. So just let me know if you're interested, send me a note. What I want to share is that this is very powerful in terms of the things that people have experienced. My last cohort, someone said, I can't believe for the past 54 years, I've been so absent in my daily life. So I'm a lot less anxious and stressed. I'm managing my pleaser and hyperachiever. There's just so many benefits to it. And I personally have said, I love this program. I have grown so much from it. And I know that a lot of people have benefited from this as well. So yeah, so just lastly, I just want to wrap this up. Giveaways, yeah, for everyone who's attended today's session, I'll just email you, or I'll do it through Danielle and Charity, a free copy of my book called Cool, Calm and Respected, 8 Leadership Concepts for Work and Home. And then if you want, feel free to schedule a free 30-minute debrief session with me on your saboteurs. I'm happy to go through them with you. We'll probably only be able to cover 2 in the session. Having said that, I think hopefully you'll get benefit from doing that. Feel free to schedule a session before April the 30th, because it'll help me figure out my, what I need to do in case you're interested in signing up for the program as well. And I want to leave you with one last thought. And the thought is this, is that happiness, right, is the absence of negative emotion. Success is accomplishing what you value, not what I value, what you value. And pleasure is temporary. I enjoy that piece of cake. It's not pleasure if it's guilty. Just enjoy that piece of cake. That chocolate cake. Yeah, and I see, Janelle, you said your dentist took away your electric toothbrush. So funny. Okay.
Yes, my dentist did take away my electric toothbrush.
I How did that? I curious, but
Yeah, I was, yeah, she's like, you're not going to have any gums left in another month if you keep using your electric toothbrush. So she took it away. So.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, well, Diane, fabulous presentation. I'm a huge supporter and believer myself in positive intelligence. So really great to have you as our guest today. And yeah, it's so impactful. And I do, my work is with leaders in organizations and getting them to understand themselves. And our leaders have got to hold up the mirror and begin to have these tough conversations, because that judge comes out so much in the workplace. You were late. You didn't show up to the meeting on time. You didn't have the agenda properly done. I mean, whatever thing it is, that judge is constantly coming at us in the workplace, and it just creates more and more stress. And when we are in that state of stress, we just simply do not function at our best. So really fantastic presentation, Diane. Thank you so much for being a part of the conversation today. And with that, I'll open it up and see if our other guests have any additional questions or thoughts for you before we close out.
I think overall that this is super important to pass along, because the idea of being present and being able to pull yourself into presence in order to not only mitigate stress, lower your cortisol, but also lower your anxiety, because in anxiety coaching, they tell you, because I've been through it, they tell you that the best way to get rid of an anxiety attack is to bring yourself into the present. And so this is a really, and not in a bad way, a very simple way to present the information that makes it understandable, which is very good. So very well done.
Thank you, Pam. And all the credit goes to Shirzad, because he actually did such a great job in simplifying it to those 3 core factors. So makes it so much easier for all of us to explain them and to understand them as well. Yeah.
All right. Anything else from anyone before we let Diane get back to her very busy day? On behalf of the Bonney Lake Chamber Collective, along with Charity and myself, we want to thank you, Diane, and all of the participants who are here today. We'll get this up on our YouTube channel so that you can continue to listen and get more insights from Diane. I love your calm approach. I'm the hyperactive, always buzzing one. So I so appreciate when there's another presenter who has this very calming approach. So, and your lovely accent. So really appreciate you being part of the conversation today. So, all right. On behalf of the Bonney Lake Chamber Collective and Zooming into Success, thanks everyone for being part of the conversation today, or whenever you listen. So talk to everyone next month, when I know Charity and I will be putting together another great topic for you. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.